Konene, so kuna story fulani ile nilibaki nimecheki wiki ile ilikuwa ni sad sana. Ilikuwa ni story fulani ilikuwa posted by boy anaitwa George T. Diano. Na George T. Diano alikuwa ameandika, "Hi Diano, my sister was assaulted by her ex-husband, baby daddy, over the weekend. He's a GSU officer and says there's nothing we can do since he comes from a wealthy family. We have a doctor's report, OB number and a P3 form. I also have a recording of him akimpiga as she begs him to stop. Photos are also there. I'm requesting if you can post for us on Twitter and just let it go viral to help us seek justice. As you know, police can't help since it's one of their own. Please post." Alafu like kulikuwa na hizo photos za huyo dem akikuwa sawa na huyo dem kama mefura, alafu kuna video ufala. Alafu unajua vile mu feel je history ya domestic violence. And ni kitu moja nimesema mara mingi sana, that one of the things make come to your life, the waso commit a lot of crimes that they think they can get away with. Acheki, that's the reason why unazangalia place kama Kenya corruption na kwa rampant hivyo. It's cause people get away with corruption. If there were consequences, then corruption would not be as rampant as it is. Tukiangalia stories of domestic violence, that's the same thing that happens in such a scenario where mse anajua that I'm committing this crime, and as I commit this crime, there's a significant part of the population that does not think it's a crime. Does that make sense? Like ukiangalia GBV inakuwaga like hata sisi wenyewe, like uangalie the generation X, uangalie generation Y aka millennials, na uangalie Gen Z. Out of those you'll find like anaweza sema roughly maybe 50% afikiri GBV ni crime. And I'm talking about the male part of the population. Of course madem, because mostly wanakuwaga on the victim side, wana understand. And ni sad because kuna video ilikuwa posted hapa, and of course kwa video yenyewe hatuwezi weka the whole part but one of the things ile nataka ucheki ufala nitakuwa nimesensa pata na gonga udem, but notice kuna watoi hapo kwa kona. At some point the mtoi anatry kusukuma budake. Try to imagine like kama mtoi ka small anatry kukusukuma juu unapiga madhaki, na unaendelea kumpiga. Ukiangalia kimsee kenyewe ni kimsee kibiki kabisa. Hii ni nonsense, stai understand. Niko nimekasirika, mimi naja ni kijam. Kwenda huko kijam nini? Kuna kuwaga na very many situations za watu kujam, but the minute that you know you can lose, hakuna kitu unaweza fanya. Angalia another situation hapa Kenya. Mwizi akiiba si ufanyaga nini? Mwizi tu. Ni vita, ngumi, teke, mawe, raia nakimbia ikitandikwa. Why? Because ni mwizi wa kawaida. Ikiwa ni mwizi politician, najua wewe ndio umetuibia mpaka hatuna mashule na mpaka imefanya crime ikaongezeka, lakini wacha tukupigia makofi. Why? Because tunajua tukichapa mwizi mmoja hatuta get away nayo. Does this mean that mina encourage raya kuwa wezi? Si. Of course, the fact that hizi raya mwizi wa kawaida akipatikana yeye utandikwa, waga imefanya Nairobi streets zikakuwa safer than they would be if that was not the case. But kila try kuonyesha tu ni hizi story like they keep happening because people get away with it. Say I'm sure most probably he's still a cop. Haja lose job yake. Kwa kumbuka ile kitu tumetoka kusema GBV. Tusha justify GBV mpaka tukaanza zile za buda, unajua watu washanyambiana kwa blanketi jo uwezi ingilia mambo yao. Does this mean that mimi nitaingilia physically as a person? No. But does it mean that I feel like we need to come up with laws that deal with such a situation? Yes. Na suggestion yangu waga very simple. Kunafaa kuwa na law court ina deal na GBV violence kama hizi, especially zile kuna evidence ya video, and the judge needs to be a woman. Alafu apart from judge kuwa woman, the inaitwa nini, judge anafaa kuwa woman. Alafu pia wale makarao wanaku escort inafaa kuwa madem. Alafu pia the prison wardens kwa hiyo area ya GBV violence inafaa kuwa ni mostly madem. Of course kuna maboy pia wanafaa kuwa hapo wa big kabisa, lakini mostly madem ndio wanakuguard, alafu wanakukosea heshima na vitu kama hizo. I think that would help in bringing down this scourge that we have. because I remember like tukibonga juu ya hiyo dehumanization like of course nani ashabonga juu ya stories zake za kuenda jela. Kuja watch show tulifanya episode 495 ile tulifanya na au boy nani jo na Eric of AO2 podcast. Baki umecheck but nakumbuka like kuna majuzi ameenda tena kwa the Coffee Pump podcast na walikuwa na akapatia na ile story yake ya jela ile alikuwa na struggle na alcoholism akashikwa akiwa kwa nini kwa ndaya akidrive afu akabaki ameenda and one of the details that alipatiana which I don't know I doubt kama ashaipatiana hapa kwa iko nini kwa memory yangu aga messed up ilikuwa ile nini ya kaba inaitwa nini hiyo like the punishment where they have to squat every time you're talking to like one of the guards you have to squat and try to imagine that level of dehumanization. Now try to imagine wewe mko wale watu wanapiganga bibi kujeni hapa kaba alafu mna squat alafu mko pale mademo anapita hapo anakusmack pap. Usisahau kwa Kenya unapata demo mwingine hata hajaoshagi sehemu nyeti anapita hapo nayo kwa skirt umekaba unainusa wanakutandika kofi hapo naanguka huko. And to me that should be the punishment because enough happen kwa nini like why it's the 21st century bado tunabonga juu ya vitu za kipumbavu alafu kitu nanikatia ni like as we talk about this vile nashinda nikisema kuna mademu pigwa wanahepa home wakishahepa home wanaambua the famous saying hapa Kenya ile ndoa ni kuvumilia afu wanabaki wamerudi kwa kuvumilia alafu wanaenda wakiwa kwa coffin achiki. Na of course kuna sort of like mwafi na sawa kuna mademu chapaga maboyo au waga especially TV madanganya madem hii TV madanganya madem that violence inakuwaga accepted kind inatoka from how so unapataga hiyo pumbavu ya TV ya dem kuslap Charlie and that nonsense hiyo ni upumbavu like violence should never be an option come to like an adult situation hata come to watoi wetu kunafaa kuwa na ways kufanya vitu without inflict violence. Try kumagine mtoi wako ameshow up kwa hii world bado hata hajui what is what and what mtoi iko 2-3 years old unamgonga babab mtoi hata iko 4-5 mtoi bado na try to figure out like try to imagine at 5 years how much you figured out about earth very little and the person who's supposed to teach you anakuteach na violence alafu hii cycle ya violence inaendeleaga and people don't see that hii cycle tumepatia watoi wetu ya kuambia that the only way mtu anaweza sikia kitu ni through kupigwa the same thing mapolisi kama wanatufanyia si unaenda chuo walimu wanakupiga tukanormalize walimu kutupiga mimi mwenyewe of course nilikuwa Olympic Estate and at that point sikuwa nafikiria ilikuwa child abuse but what used to happen to us at Olympic Estate Primary School was child abuse. I don't care if the grades were good but to beat us up vile tunapigwa kama wezi like ilikuwaga ukimaliza siku kwa hujapigwa ni na mimi nasema kama mtu like academically sikuwa struggle so the people who used to struggle used to get more beatings than sisi wale tulikuwa tuna struggle and when you look back you're like this was child abuse. Alafu natoka hapo kuna wale na maseko wanapigwa mimi seko atakuwa tunapigwa so I don't know that shit. Kuna wale enda seko na watu wanapigwa I think hata nilisikia if I'm not wrong Caswell tukiwa naye hapa alikuwa anasema hata Alliance High School watu walikuwa wanapigwa mimi niko damn Alliance violence cause sisi starch ilikuwa gani piga tizi juu ilikuwa gani drill so unakuwa fit so ungekuwa wewe ni criminal uko na biceps joko zile ma press ups so piganga tu so school kuna piganga paka press ups na knuckles and when you come to think about it that was such a good punishment because ni stay fit so kuna punishment inaitwa drill ile break time unapatana na kanini a very most probably unfit prefect jo inapigisha tizi 15 press ups unapiga press then jump sababu na jump nini nadi kwa jua kulikuwa gani hiyo drill tena alafu sasa mnabaki mmeenda nini so looking back on that but now back to the violence of course kuna saa tukitoka kwa seko wacha tuende kwa makarao anajuaga violence unaenda pale uko suspected of something wanakupiga kofi ngumi and whatever that happens of course that also happens in foreign countries makarau kutumia violence, but Kenya try to kuonyesha like the pattern, and violence waga inatumika as the only way ku discipline watu, and that's the reason why mseka Murkomen anaweza baki ametokea na aseme kwa nini atupigwi risasi, like piga ase nini, wapige. And with this same mentality, like if as a kid ulikuwa unapigwa, alafu ukaenda shule ukapigwa, ukaenda seko ukapigwa, makarau huko nje anatumia violence kupiga watu. If you are someone who's very weak willed and someone who hajui ku differentiate ama ku critically think, wewe mwenyewe utajipata ukido the same shit. So utajipata kwa unapata demu yako anakucheza, unaanza kumpiga instead of kufurahia, unanicheza sawa, katafute ukimwi yuko nje. Like if you are faithful, wewe mwenyewe uko faithful, mwenyewe anataka kuishia ishie. Mystery story, oh you are my soulmate, without you kuna vitu mob zile muonaga Hollywood zile zinakuaga kipumbavu, like I love you more than life itself. Kwenda huko, kuna love kama hiyo. Love ni conditional, ina come with some conditions, and the best way kujuaga love ni conditional, kujua the love of God. Nene, so nimeinterrupt show kukupatia some good news. Are you in the UK? Are you in Canada? Are you in Europe? You know what? Good news, Lemfi imefika jo. So ukiwa masaiza US, ukiwa UK, ukiwa Canada, ukiwa Europe, bado unzabaki umetuma pesa through Lemfi. No sahau, Lemfi ukupatiaga the best exchange rates, na pia ile story ya $20 cashback on your first transaction, ile kwa equivalent to $100, hiyo bado iko. So unangoja nini jo? Usahau tumia promo code ikonene. Yes? Alafu pia kitu moja na nibamba saizi juu ya Lemfi ni the fact that si lazima ubaki umeseti do kwa your mobile wallet, uzabaki umetransfer do direct from your debit card ikikuja, alafu the exchanges themselves zinakuaga instant. Alafu saizi pia kitu mushinaga nikiambia wasi wako US, jua still unzalipa bills za maparo ka uko maju, unzalipa aje cause till numbers na pay bills pia ziko supported na Lemfi. So nangoja nini? Baki umeinstall Lemfi. Yes? Na umesikia vile nimesema US, UK, Canada, Europe. Chukueni Lemfi, chap. Kauko Dubai, masaiza UAE, Lemfi ina come soon. Alafu msisahau jo kutumia promo code ikonene. Unangoja nini? Lemfi, international payments for everyone. Let's go back to the show. Usiposifu Mungu utaenda ahera. Sawa? Usiposifu Mungu utaenda ahera. Number 1. Usipomsifu kila siku unamwambia asante, utapatana kitu inaitwa thug rock. Utasumbuka kwa hii dunia, thug rock. Okay. So kumbuka, and apart from that, usipomsifu kisha daily utaenda hell, itakuwa ni eternal. Na kumbuka hiyo love yake ni unconditional. Oh damn, those are conditions. So there's no love that's not conditional. So as much as unapenda dem, lazima ajue pia kuna conditions. Ile like na kupenda juu 1 2 3 things, and ukiacha kufanya hizo vitu ni za kwenda. Na pia boy lazima ajue kama dem anapenda boy, lazima ujue kuna conditions. Unampenda juu 1 2 3 things, na hizo vitu zikistop anaweza ishia. So as adults tunafaa kujua like tuko pamoja, but it's not life and death. Like at any point when this stops working for either of us, moja ataenda kulia because of heartbreak, au mwingine ataenda kucheka because of freedom, and it's okay, we move on. Hii story ina happen hapa, hiyo ya hii kifala kinachapa wife hivyo, alafu na chiki mtoi anakustop, like mtoi anakustop, and mtoi atakuwa na 2 choices later in life. Either atakuwa kama budake ama ata stop the bullshit. Lakini one of the things ile najua ni mtoi hata respect budake, atafia budake, he'll never respect him. And a lot of you out here respect mabuda zenyu, you fear them and you assume that fear is respect. You respect someone who is respectful to others, and you fear someone who you know and that's unapataga kuna wase wakishafika certain age pia mabuda zao hizo waambia kitu. Unapata msee ako na muscles zingine mpaka budake hakuna kitu anaweza do around yeye, and then this cycle just continues and continues. So yes, this was a really sad situation to see, and Yeah, I don't know. I don't know like how this can be solved. And but nikimalizia wacha niruke kwa politics. Kulikuwa na hii video fulani kuendelea ya Kabando wa Kabando, and it was funny to see. And why was it funny to see? Because the way Kabando ana act is like whatever Ruto is doing is new. Najua, and vitu kama hizi ndio nikisemaga na patagara zimejaa bofu umelipwa utasemaje kila Ruto anafanya si mpya. Hizi vitu zimekuwa zikihappen, so I don't want to see this selective outrage, but wacha tuone hii selective outrage na bonga juu yake.
Well, I'm not really.
Ruto is a thief.
Right. You might have an issue with the president, but also respect the presidency.
I don't respect him. I don't respect him.
I'm saying the office.
I don't. You go respect him.
I am saying the full.
I don't respect him. I hate Ruto. I hate you, Ruto.
No. It can't.
I hate him.
What kind of...
I hate him for killing us.
We take that.
I hate him.
We do not know whether it's the truth from, and that
It is me who has said it.
That is coming from, right? So I will not also allow you to be on the podium.
Then I don't need to come to
Thank
this
you very
studio.
much.
No.
If you are going to censor me or
Thank you very
me,
much.
But
then I don't need to come here.
Of course, we have to have decorum.
No.
So I hate him for killing blah blah blah. Yeah, like Kibaki did that, Uhuru did that. Where were you? Never saw this. No, miss me with this selective outrage bullshit. Like, I understand this coming from a Gen Z who was maybe a kid when Kibaki was doing his atrocities. I even respect it coming from some random Kenyan who never cared when this was happening to like Nyanza and Kisumu and Kibera. But to do this and you're a politician, to pretend that you're this outraged and this has never happened and Ruto is the first one to do it, fuck you. But wacha tuendelee.
No. You cannot call killing decorum. You cannot call murder decorum. You cannot call theft and corruption decorum. No. I better never come to a studio where I'm going to be denied the volume and the space to state historic facts.
I'm not really.
Ruto is a thief.
I'm right.
Yes, Ruto is a thief. No one disputes that. And Uhuru was a thief. Jua itakuwa like, I don't know how we are going to put it, but Eurobond happened under Uhuru and we are still paying for that Eurobond crime. And these stories are killings, so they were still there. So understand me, like I'm not supporting what Ruto is doing. What I'm stating is, I don't want a politician who was quiet during Uhuru's time and quiet during Kibaki's time to show this level of outrage. You do not have this privilege. You do not, because this is a privilege that only a few of us should have. Like, of course, the recently woke people wame realize like, oh damn, governments are violent. Damn, this has never happened before. Nyinyi nimewalao. Like, yes, and mimi nimewalao. Jam. This is where I give my opinion. Kuna watu wanafikiria this started with Ruto. It did not start with Ruto. This thing has been happening. And if you think it started with Ruto, it's because you need to look at yourself in the mirror and ask yourself, where were you time ya baby pendo? If you are too young, sawa. But if you're in your 30s and your 40s and you have this level of bullshit, like you think Ruto is the worst to ever happen, kwenda huko. Yes, it's not. This has been happening. And the fact that if you're in your 30s and your 40s, you kept quiet during Uhuru's time is the reason why this bullshit is happening. It's continuing. Yes, and he kept quiet. This is the reason why Matiang'i can come and claim that he's an option. It's this is like Murkomen kukuja 10 years from now claim he's an option. You'll be like, hell no. Remember what you did during Ruto's time? You're going to do the same. So,
I'm just saying.
And this patronizing murder of children.
All right.
It is not true.
And his best friends are thieves and looters.
This is not true.
Ruto is a mistake and
hold
a curse.
Hold your horses. Hold your horses.
Say, tell Ruto to go to court.
Yes.
Let me say this.
Finish, we take a break.
The ethics you are talking. No, don't go to break because Kabando is talking.
No.
I am going to eject to the liver. Napiga isidano mpaka kwa liver.
Oh, we need to take a short break.
This is the fear we have.
11 o'clock on the
No. What you do? Close the conversation. Or don't call me because today the Gen Z is why he is terminating me in order for me to.
Can you finish?
It's okay.
Just let me take a break.
Dibal. The regime has gone rogue. It has gone satanic. It is murderous and gluttonous to the extent that William Ruto epitomizes and exemplifies incorrigible merchant of impunity.
Skema kama vizungu. Incorrigible matter of impunity. I don't know, man. Like, I understand what he's saying. But if this regime is murderous and it's satanic, Uhuru's regime was murderous and satanic, and Kibaki's regime was murderous and satanic. And I'll keep saying this, and I say this at the risk of losing subscribers. I say this at the risk of tukanwa. But just because we've woken up does not mean that something has not been happening. It's been happening, and it's been normalized. The person who had a chance to unnormalize this was Kibaki. When Kibaki came into power, we as civilians took out and arrest the police. The police would be there running away because of we, the civilians. What did Kibaki do? He lost an election in 2007 and decided to unleash the police on citizens. The amount of people that died from tribal violence in 2007 are less than the amount of people that died from police violence. That's a fact. And because of this fact, now we are stuck in a situation whereby politicians know that if the citizens rise up and say this is an injustice, all I need to do is unleash the police. After Kibaki passed the baton to Uhuru, Uhuru did the same. Watu walikufa, watu wengi sana. But during Uhuru's time and during Kibaki's time, Kenya was divided into tribal cocoons. So Uhuru supporters would look at what's happening to Raila supporters and not care. Kibaki supporters would look at what's happening to Raila supporters and not care. But this does not mean that this violence was not happening. This violence was happening. And what Ruto is doing is he's continuing the legacy. What he learned from Kibaki and what he learned from Uhuru, and what also, of course, he learned from Moi, because Moi was his main teacher. But to only say that he's learning this from Moi is to be tribal. Yes, hiyo ni kitu naenda kusema. If you think that if violence ina happen, juu Ruto ni mkale, na Ruto alilearn from Uhuru, yani from Moi woko tribal. Ruto alilearn this from Uhuru, that's his immediate teacher. Uhuru learned this from Kibaki. Kibaki was his immediate teacher. And Kibaki learned that from Moi. Moi learned it from Kenyatta. So this has been happening. And at some point, someone needs to stop it. But we don't need this level of fake outrage and selective outrage. He's satanic, gluttonous, incorrigible. What the hell were you when Eurobond was happening? Where were you when Baby Pendo was happening? The Kanjokoma brothers were happening. Where were you when Rivayala was happening? That time it was not gluttonous and satanic and incorrigible.
And the surrogates are working under him, sycophants, are so intolerant of this truth be said. And I say, and I tell you, and I'll say it even in my dream, the greatest tragedy and curse in this country is William Ruto.
But he's still a president of his country.
Now you are talking. Stop defending him. You're supposed to moderate.
I'm saying.
That's a fact. He is a president by accident, by a curse.
I'm just saying. There's an office of a president.
No. As a moderator, you must listen to your panelists.
Okay, he's a president by accident. No, he's not a president by accident. He's a president because he was elected. And he was elected because the country was divided along tribal lines. And when the country was divided along tribal lines, a lot of people used to close their eyes and ignore injustices that were happening. But these injustices have been happening. So a lot of people that shared this video with me expected me to be there like, Ruto is satanic and Ruto is no. And I'm like, Ruto is just doing what these other motherfuckers used to do. And this has been happening and this needs to stop. So it's good that during Ruto's time, we are fighting this. But let's not let politicians pretend to be as outraged as the rest of us. Why are we outraged? Because we know. Right now, everyone knows that this can come to your door. Before, this used to be Shidaiko Kisumu na Kibra. That used to be the places. But right now, we notice it's a nationwide thing. And the difference is, during Uhuru's time and Kibaki's time, there used to be those regions, in quotes, that would revolt. And they'd bear the brunt of the government. But this time, it's happened everywhere. So we've been able to notice that, damn, this can happen everywhere. But now, since it's happened everywhere, now people are like, oh, this has never happened. Oh, damn, hata tukienda tu to protest za sufuria. Ziza kuwekela sufuria in 2023. 75 people died. Do you even know a single name of any person who died that time? No. Because that time Ruto was still an angel. And remember, this other guy was disrupting the economy. And you, as part of the people who developed the economy, was not outraged. Right now, you're outraged. And you have every right to be outraged. But politicians don't. Tukakina Kabando have known what has been happening in this country from day one. They can't then pretend to be more outraged than people who've been on the other side bearing the brunt of that same government. So, come to his story, yeah, that's my 2 cents on that. So, jetilia hapa kwa comments kwa umejam na mimi. Hakuna kitu nitaniambia. Ruto si mbaya kama Uhuru. Ruto si mbaya kama Kibaki. Ruto ni mbaya kama shetani. For me niko pale. Shetani does not exist. Eko nene.